This is possibly one of the most important conversations you're going to hear this week, but love it or hate it, social media is here to stay and has become, some argue, the most relevant way to convey a message and to communicate. But for many users, the digital age has brought with it serious legal implications that could have dire consequences for the publisher. Authors Emma Sadler and Lizzie Harrison recently released a book titled Selfies, Sext and Smartphones, a teenager's online survival guide. The book explores legal pitfalls, hidden dangers and future implications of what you do see and post online. We're joined now in studio by co-author and social media legal expert Emma Sadler. Emma, welcome. So good to have you.
Thanks for having me.
I've been wanting to have you on the show for I can't tell you how long, because, you know, the pitfalls of social media, particularly amongst our youth, has to be possibly the biggest scourge of our time.
Yeah, I think we're failing children. Honestly, I see children who are 8 years old who are given a smartphone and they have access to it 24 hours a day. The parents have no idea what they're on, which platforms they're using. And I'm afraid I see the bad stuff, because often when things go wrong, I am the first responder. Horrible issues around cyberbullying, sexting, reputational issues, you know, because, you know, when we messed up as teenagers, and frankly, teenagers do mess up.
Absolutely.
Thank goodness there was no record of it.
Yeah.
And I think the reality is now that everybody is a celebrity in the digital age, and our friends and our family are the paparazzi.
Yeah.
And children, what I'm seeing, are just not able to live down their mistakes because there's this permanent record of it.
I mean, and I think the reality is that a lot of the youth, and we're talking about the youth because this is aimed to the youth, but it's for adults as well, because we're also as dumb when we post certain things on Facebook, social media, Instagram, whatever. I know there's so many different platforms out there, but it sticks to you for the rest of your life. And some people think, no, it's not. I deleted it, so it's gone. It'll be fine, but it's not.
The permanence of the internet is a very, very real issue. You know, so I give talks every day at schools. I speak about the legal consequences, because I think a lot of people think, well, you know, if they mess up online, they might get in a bit of trouble at school, but, you know, they're too young to commit a crime. In South Africa, the age of criminal capacity is 14 years old.
Sure.
Actually, under 10, there's no criminal capacity. Between 10 and 14, children can have capacity if they should be able to appreciate the consequences of their actions. So what we're seeing, Leanne, is that people are actually being charged with criminal offences, like crimen injuria. We saw Vicky Momberg in court last week being found guilty of crimen injuria, infringement of dignity. We're seeing extraordinary amounts of people getting into trouble because of the sexting offences, early exposure to pornography. You know, I think we've got to appreciate that what the smartphone does is that it turns us all into publishers.
Yeah.
You know?
Let's stop there for a second, talk about sexting.
Yeah. Yeah, well,
It's
sexting,
illegal. Is it legal? Is it illegal?
It's illegal. So if you're over the age of 18, it's not illegal. It's just incredibly stupid. And I do know that I sound like a victim shamer, but I'm afraid I'm the first responder. And once that content is out there, it's out there. So prevention is better than cure.
When we're talking about sexting, is this sending nudes? Is
sending nudes, creating... And I think even the requirement of nudes is not necessary, because really it's content that's intended to stimulate erotic feelings. So some of the content that I see amongst the 13-year-old girls posting on Instagram, you know, it's sexually explicit. The famous quote from the US Supreme Court judge was, "Pornography, I know it when I see it."
Yeah.
You know, so it doesn't actually require nudity. So under the age of 18, what the law says at the moment, and I'm desperately trying in Parliament to change these laws, is that if you are under the age of 18 and you take a photograph of yourself naked, you're creating child pornography. That's a pretty serious offence. You send it to someone, it's distribution of child pornography. Asking somebody for a nude is solicitation of child pornography. Now, the issue is that it's become very normalized, and I think that our children are growing up in a world where they are exposed. The average age of first exposure to pornography in South Africa at the moment is 11, and we're seeing this kind of content come through, and extraordinary pressure being placed, particularly by the boys, on the girls to send these nudes, because it's almost come like a social currency. You know, it's almost like the modern day sporting card. You know how we used to buy those cards at the garage? You know, it's a competition who can get the nudes the quickest and then quickly send them on to all of your friends. Now,
you've spoke about a case, I mean, where I mean, there was, what, like 60, 70 requests from one guy asking a girl for a picture. He sent it, and she was shamed and almost committed suicide.
Yeah, she tried to commit suicide and was in ICU, and thank goodness is now okay. But I remember having this conversation with her mother at the time. You know, what could be so bad that you thought this was, you know, that we couldn't cope with it? And she said that picture's going to be there forever. You know, pictures had been posted on porn sites. You Google her name. I've had 3 clients this year under the age of 18 where my advice is to change your name, because it's the only way you can really escape that content that comes up online when people have placed your intimate content on porn sites. So it really is extraordinary. Like, I don't know if we are able really to understand how severe and how long-term the consequences are, because all of this is so new. You know?
Is. That's the reality.
When I told the kids at schools that I got my first cell phone when I was 16, they all go, "Oh,
really?
Shame."
Yeah, exactly. And you couldn't take pictures. You couldn't do anything with the
camera,
thing.
No internet connection.
It was just there to make a phone call.
Which I did.
But that brings me to the conversation, and I know that I think, I don't know if you said it on air or we were talking off air, parents are becoming irresponsible. My question to you is, why does a 7-year-old, 8-year-old, 9-year-old, why do they need a smartphone?
They don't.
For what reason?
In simple terms, they don't.
You're putting a gun in your child's hand.
Or giving them the keys to a car and saying, go and have a nice time, without teaching them the tools to stay safe. And frankly, I think under the age of 13, you just don't have the brain development to cope with how dangerous a tool a smartphone is. So my strong view is that smartphones should be banned for children under the age of 13.
Is that something that can be passed? I mean, are you trying to...
Well, I mean, I'm certainly campaigning for it. I don't think it could be a legal thing. Although legally, where we've seen some development internationally is to hold parents specifically responsible for what their children are up to on their phones up until the age of 13. Victoria in Australia has just passed that law. And that might make parents think a little bit more carefully before they give their children these phones. So I think no smartphones for children under the age of 13.
Absolutely.
You know, where they tell you they need a phone because... sometimes they do, you know, to tell you that netball's been cancelled because it's raining. Get them a dumb phone.
Yeah.
You know, they need a little Nokia 3210. That's all they need.
And that's it.
And then before they're allowed their smartphone, you sit them down in a corner and you make them read this, and I don't care how much they hate you for it.
I know.
You've got to teach them the rules.
It's a scare tactic, and it's a very, it's amazing. I mean, we haven't even, it's basically, like you say, the K53 method for driving. Every rule that is on social media is in here. But I want to very quickly talk about WhatsApp groups, because that has become very common. Most school children have them. Most school moms have them. I mean, we all have them. It's an easy way to communicate. And yet there are very strict laws around WhatsApp groups as well. Yeah.
So WhatsApp groups, one of the biggest issues is just sort of, you know, we say very colloquially these days, they're in the same WhatsApp group. Well, actually, from a legal point of view, if you're on the same WhatsApp group and there's something dodgy going on in that group, inappropriate, offensive, illegal, maybe there's child pornography or there's extreme bullying, just because you're on that group, you have the ability to dissociate yourself. Now from a legal point of view, if you have the ability to dissociate yourself from content, and you don't, you are as responsible for that content as if you'd been actively participating. And it comes from a very interesting case that was heard in the Pretoria court, where a new wife wrote something terribly defamatory about the ex-wife, called her a paedophile, and in so doing tagged her husband. Now, the husband didn't go and untag himself. So what the court said is that you could have dissociated yourself from that content. By not doing so, you're aligning yourself with the view you have to pay the same amount of damages as your new wife and half the legal costs. You know, where you have the ability to stop content from being published, somebody writes something on my Facebook page, comments on an Instagram post where I have editorial control over it, I'm responsible for that content if I don't take steps to delete it or dissociate myself as if I had written that content myself.
I mean, we've seen people being fired from their job for liking a post. I mean, we've seen it here with political parties posting things that are opinions that has enraged people. I mean, you got a guy like Donald Trump who gets away with what he gets away with. I don't understand it.
All I can say to the children out there, if they're listening, the rules that apply to Donald Trump don't apply to you and me. The day he was elected, I wanted to go down a hole, because I stand up at schools and I say, you tweet one stupid thing, you'll never get a job, you'll never get into university, and now we've got Donald Trump. But but it is true. I mean, the rules that apply to him just don't apply to the
One
rest
of the big things, sorry, my producers are shouting at me, but I just have to get this in, please, I'm sorry. That's my apology. You know, there have been scholars that have been chosen for huge positions. I mean, you quote something where they were going to Oxford University. They then did a little bit of a back check, and it was taken away from them.
Absolutely.
I have heard stories of, in fact, I think it was a year ago or 2 years ago, I'm not sure, some of the Miss South Africa entrants couldn't get any further because they may have had something on social media that the organizers didn't like. People do not realize this.
Absolutely. I don't think it's a question of your potential employer might check you out online.
They will.
I think it's a question of if they don't, they're acting negligently. Because as soon as you start working for them, their online reputation is inextricably linked with the reputation of the company. And I'll tell you that just since the publication of this book, there were 10 students who were due to start at Harvard in August. A week before the term started, Harvard discovered that they were on a Facebook group chat, and all 10 of them lost their places at Harvard. So you work your whole life. You know how hard it is to get into Harvard. Getting into Harvard, one Facebook group chat, and that's it. You're not welcome anymore. So it's serious stuff, legal, reputational, and disciplinary.
Emma, you've whet our appetites, you really have. And I know I quote you quite a few times on the show saying, do not put something on social media if you're not willing to put a billboard up with your name, your photo, and exactly what you've said on a highway.
And actually, we've taken that further. Don't let it exist in digital content. Not even in a private message, because the screenshot is the devil.
All right. Are we allowed to carry on? No. Have I got another minute? No, I got to take a break. You see, I'm begging, but it's not working. Emma, thank you.
Thank you.
Never mind, you come back, but go buy this book. Like we say, it's probably one of the most essential books that you can buy your children at this point in time. They need to read this. You, as a parent, need to read this. I need to read this. Selfies and sects, I can't even say the word, and smartphones. Emma Sadler, thank you very much for being with us here, and Lizzie Harrison, the co-author of that book. Let's take a very quick break. Are we taking a break? I don't even know. I'm confused. I think we've gone